When is life insurance a good idea? That's what we're talking about today on Viewer Mailbag. So, with that being said, let me get into the letter. Howdy, Fi Guys. I hope you can help me. I've got something on my mind that I could use your advice on, typically.
Yeah.
So, after my father in law passed away unexpectedly in April, we found ourselves in a bit of a tough spot financially. Turns out he didn't have any life insurance, and the funeral costs nearly landed us in some trouble with our savings, right? Luckily, his mom stepped in. His stepmom. No, his mom. His actual mom. Interesting. Luckily, his mom stepped in and covered it. But it got us thinking. My mother-in-law, bless her heart. Oh, I see. I think that might have been a typo. His
No,
wife. Is
no,
it
no,
his
I,
wife?
I, no, no, I think that's right. His
It is?
mom, like, so
Interesting.
the father-in-law can still have a mom.
I guess
She might
so.
be older.
I guess for me, I was born really late. Like my parents had me when they were like 45. So it's I'm like, grandparents? That's crazy. What a concept.
Hmm.
Mother-in-laws, father-in-laws. I don't know. That's just threw me off for a sec. So getting back to the story. My mother-in-law, bless her heart, doesn't have any life insurance either. And with her health being a bit of concern, we're worried about what might happen down the road. She's really not one to talk about this kind of stuff since losing her husband. So we're wondering if it's something that we should look into without necessarily bringing it up with her. You know,
Hmm.
we've been trying to figure it out how life insurance works and if something we should consider getting for her. You know, it's not like we're looking for a big payout or anything. It's just something to cover the funeral costs when that time comes. Do you have any advice on life insurance and if it's a good idea for us? Thanks for lending an ear. From the peace of mind a policy will find to leave no loved one's fate behind. I love that. That's cute. What do you
All
got for
right.
us, Chris?
Yeah. So it sounds like the big question is, should I get life insurance for my mom,
Mm-hmm.
for my mother-in-law? And
Mm-hmm.
then can I get life insurance without telling her that I'm getting her life insurance?
That sounds like a bit of a scam or something.
Um,
It sounds fishy, no?
so in order to have life insurance on somebody, you have to have insurable interest.
Okay.
Um,
What
so
is that?
since it means that, like, I can't take out a life insurance policy on like Kim Kardashian because I have no insurable interest. Like, I'm not dependent on her income in any way, shape, or
Gotcha.
form.
Gotcha. Okay.
You know, but since they are a family member to you,
Yep.
I don't think that you can still take it out without her knowledge,
Okay.
because she is in no way financially. You are in no way financially dependent on your mother-in-law, and like
No.
her death isn't going to bring you money or even really lose you money in any way, shape, or form. So like, she would have to know about the life insurance policy. So
Yeah.
I don't think there's any way around that you can just sign up for a life insurance policy without her knowing. And the other thing with a life insurance policy, I'm going to assume that she's older because she's your mother-in-law. She will likely have to go through a medical exam. So I don't know how you're going to trick her into getting a medical exam for life insurance without her knowing about it.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, so that kind of makes me think, like, why are you so afraid to talk to your mother-in-law about this?
Yeah.
I definitely understand that it is a scary topic to bring up with your loved ones. Like, talking about life insurance, talking about these things is not fun, especially talking with your parents about it. Because
Yeah.
I think a lot of parents, they shudder at the idea of talking about money with their kids.
Yeah.
Because in their minds, like, they're the ones who are supposed to be in control of money, and their kids bring up concerns about money to you. You're supposed to be the one who has it all figured out.
Yeah.
And maybe it's going to show them that, like, oh, mom and dad don't have this figured out. So a way that I like to do that would be bring it up to her in the form of a question. Hey, mom, I've been thinking about, and that could be an easy one to be like, hey, mom, I've been thinking about getting life insurance for myself, because I really want to make sure that when I pass away, that my husband isn't like burdened with a bunch of debt or anything like that. Do you know anything about that, or what do you have in place for yourself?
Yeah.
Therefore, you're not like trying to come at them and attack them like, hey, what do you have for life insurance? I don't want to make sure you're a burden on me.
Yeah.
You're trying to
Absolutely.
you're trying to ask them, you're trying to come to them with a problem. And hopefully you'll see if they have anything. You kind of go with the way they respond. You know, if it's something like, oh, this is what I'm doing, great. Now at least you know the information. Or if it's, I don't know, I've never thought about that. Now you can ask, oh, can we figure this out together? Because I think it might be something important for both you and myself.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah, the idea of having like a nurse come to the house and be like, so what's your blood pressure? Be like, what's going on here? What's this for? It's like, I don't even worry about it. Don't even worry about it. I think that's solid advice though. You know, talking about money from a parent standpoint can be very stressful. And then you compound that on the fact that, hey, guess what? I don't mean to burden you with this information, but you're not going to live forever. So kind of got to prepare for when I bury you. Talk about a tough subject.
Yeah.
Talk about a tough subject. Talking about your own mortality. That's got to be one of the tougher ones on the list.
But if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. So I mean, it's really important that you talk about that kind of stuff. You know, I also think that this person who wrote in doesn't really have a full understanding as to like when life insurance is a good idea. So they asked me, is life insurance? Like, they asked us, is life insurance a good idea for my mom? Most likely, no. Most likely it isn't. The only time that I think that you want to get life insurance on someone in this situation, because right now they said that it seems like they're in financial hardship. Sometimes you might want to use life insurance if you're like buku wealthy and you have a bunch of money and you're trying to shelter from taxes. Like insurance can be very helpful, but for these people, that's not the situation. They said that, you know, paying for someone's funeral arrangements, which is what, $10,000 on average, was like put them into severe issue.
Yeah.
So they're not the kind of people that are trying to shelter their wealth from an estate tax.
No.
So whenever you want to get a term policy or a life insurance policy, it's typically if you have someone who's dependent on you. So the father-in-law likely should have had a life insurance policy because it seems like the mother-in-law doesn't have anything much left right now. But the mother-in-law has no one dependent on her. No one's dependent on her income. So why are you thinking about getting a life insurance policy when no one's dependent on the income? Something that I'd probably recommend is get a final expenses or a burial/funeral policy put on you, which you can usually get those between $10,000 and $15,000 of coverage. And those usually don't require a medical exam, but they will have some like questions and a brief history that you have to put on. So your mom does have to know about it, but it'll be substantially cheaper because with your mom, I'm not sure how old she is, but let's say she's 60 years old. Let's say she's 60 years old. Getting a life insurance policy for a 60-year-old, it's going to be really, really expensive, regardless if you go whole life or term, because the statistics of them dying within that term policy is substantially higher than, say, a 20-year-old.
Yeah. So I'm curious, at what point do you think a person should get final expenses? Or is that for everybody? Or like for me, right? 25. I don't have to pay for that my whole life. Like, how does that work? Are you up to date on that? Or is that something?
I don't think that final expenses is something really worth it to most people if you have assets. So it sounds like, based off what this person said, she put in here, where she put it? She put something inside there about how she's concerned that when her mom passes away, that there's not going to be any money left, and that probably most of her money is probably going to go to bills or something like that. So at that point, it probably makes sense. But for most people, especially people on the path of financial independence, you have extra money in bank accounts. You have those emergency funds. You have investments. You have all those things that will be a part of your estate. They'll be able to pass on to your next of kin, that they'll be able to use for your final expenses and burials. So for you, I know that you have extra money. We've talked about it. You have investment accounts. You know, right now you have a beneficiary on there who I'm assuming is probably your mom or your dad. If you were to pass away, your parents would be able to take that extra money and be able to use it for your final expenses.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely.
So, I mean, final expenses, burial policies, I would say only are to be used for people in like financial dire straits who, if they were to pass away, they have nothing they're leaving to anyone else, with the exception of like maybe debt, which isn't going to transfer anyways. And then the people around them don't have money to do the burial.
Interesting. Okay.
But I think a lot of people, they think, oh, well, if I die, I just want my husband or I want somebody else to just get money, like as a payout that I died. I was like, oh, I'm sorry I died. Here's money.
Yeah. I love that, you know, if I die. Yeah.
Yeah. Like, I'm sorry that I died. Like, here's money. But you also have to remember that comes with a cost. That comes with money right now that you're having to spend to keep that policy in force. And imagine what you could do if you were to put that money and use it to put it into investments to actually grow your wealth. Then you might not need to have that final expenses, because you're going to be leaving them with a nest egg that they can use for your final expenses or for setting themselves up for something else.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. So I hope that helps.
Yeah,
I hope that helps.
I do. And yeah, so for you, I don't think that life insurance is a good idea for our listener here based off what they said, but you should definitely look into final expenses or burial. And I've noticed a lot that people are very confused when it comes to life insurance policies.
Mm-hmm.
So I think next week, what we'll do for the podcast, I'm going to bring on a special guest in order to talk all about different insurance policies, when we should start to think about them, how can we calculate how much money we should have on the insurance policy for what term, all that kind of stuff. That way we can have a better understanding for our audience. I'm pretty good in this stuff, but sometimes it's better to have somebody else come in here and talk about that because insurance is just a small portion of what I do. Let's bring somebody in who knows the ins and outs, the intricacies substantially more than I do.
Absolutely. No, I think that's brilliant. And yeah, best of luck from Arizona. And yeah, that's it for Five Friday Feedback Viewer Mailbag.
This video podcast is sponsored by Monzon Wealth. The content in this podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered financial advice. We do not endorse specific products or services. Past performance does not guarantee future results. The opinions expressed are those of the host and guests, not the podcast sponsor.
It is crucial to consult with a qualified financial advisor or professional who can provide advice tailored to your specific needs before making any financial decisions, investments, or taking any other actions. If you are seeking specified help, you can reach out to Chris at monzonwealth.com.